Welcome, and thanks for joining me for part 2 of this powerful program on abortion in the Black community. During our last episode, we met several members of the National Black Pro-Life Coalition who provided documented proof the abortion industry is targeting women of color. Their stories continue today as I speak with them at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. Each talks about their efforts to end abortion and restore a culture of life in the Black community. Stay with us. Dr. Alveda King is the Director of African American Outreach for Priests for Life and the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She's one of the founding members of the coalition and considers the pro-life movement a continuation of the civil rights struggle. Her latest book, King Rules, objects to the pro-abortion activists trying to lay claim on the King legacy.
You know, I write about all of those experiences, the triumphs and the tragedies, in my book, King Rules. And I bring about 10 rules that tells us how to go back to the basics of God, of morality, of love, and of justice. And so people ask me all the time, well, your uncle was shot, your grandmother was shot, your father was killed and thrown in a swimming pool. Why aren't you bitter? I marched, of course, for open housing in Louisville, Kentucky in the 20th century. Our home was bombed in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, A.D. and Naomi King, our family. So as I look back and move forward, not with bitterness or regrets or longing to go to something that didn't work, but to see all of the blessings and then to move forward in a very positive way. So that book, there are principles for everybody. It's not just for Democrats or Republicans or Christians or non-Christians, but for people, for humanity. Answers to what the King family has taught us for 7 generations on how to prosper and how to love each other.
What do you say to people who believe that Dr. King would have supported abortion?
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born to pro-life parents. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so he would have recognized that it would be unjust to take the life of a little baby in the womb. Planned Parenthood tried to give him an award in 1966, the Maggie Award. Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife, Coretta King, supported the pro-choice position that a woman should have the right to choose abortion. So his wife went to the ceremony, read a speech that someone else wrote in his stead. So Martin Luther King Jr. was never pro-abortion. He loved people, he loved men and women, he loved children, he loved God. And so he was a very pro-life man.
Catherine Davis is a member of the coalition and founder and president of the Restoration Project. She works to inform, educate, and activate people on the impact of America's public policy and culture on Black life. Catherine feels they have to overcome the tragic fact that abortion has been portrayed by pro-abortion activists as a civil right.
You know, we're sitting in a freedom museum that chronicled some of the fight that Blacks had in this nation for the right to be able to go into a restaurant or drink out of a water fountain or in slavery. Not one of my ancestors died so that we could kill a baby. And what's happened is the abortion industry, particularly when addressing the Black community, has been able to weave this lie that a woman being able to take the life of her child in the womb is somehow equal to or similar to the struggle that we had during the civil rights movement, and nothing can be further from the truth. I don't think Martin Luther King or Viola Liuzzo or any of the ones who were killed thought for 1 minute that their death, the taking of their life, was going to mean that somebody someday would say taking the life of a child in the womb was equal to that. That's not what civil rights was about, and that's not what it's about today.
Coming up, we'll learn about dramatic and compelling evidence that shows Planned Parenthood is aggressively marketing abortion in minority neighborhoods. Arnold Culbraith is the Director of Urban Outreach for Protecting Black Life, a project of Life Issues Institute. The organization recently published cutting-edge research regarding Planned Parenthood targeting women of color and created an interactive map that clearly displays the findings.
Pro-lifers have been touting that Planned Parenthood targets the minority community for some time, and many of them struggle with having substantive research to corroborate their claims. We spent a little over a year researching all 165 Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities in the country, and we juxtaposed census tract data, drew a 2-mile radius walking distance circle around each of those facilities, and we discovered that 79% of them are in Black and Hispanic communities.
You took your information, the research results, and put them on an interactive website. Tell me about that.
When folks visit that website, they'll find an interactive map that's fully Google functional. And that map will show all 165 Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities in the nation. There's a filtering function on that map. You can exclusively look at how this impacts the Black community. You can look at how it impacts the Hispanic community exclusively, or you can look at a combination of both. You can scroll all the way down to street level and see the actual facade and traffic around these abortuaries. But the most damning thing in this research is the surrounding neighborhood that these 165 Planned Parenthood surgical facilities are located in. 79% of them, that's more than 3 out of 4, are in Black and Hispanic communities.
The statistics and numbers that are shown in this particular report are revealing, compelling, and not surprising. When we look at the figures that show that, say in New York, for instance, and a couple of other places, it's upside down. Abortion, more babies are aborted than are born. But you also need data. And as you have data that confirms this, that's irrefutable, it is so important to have an instrument of this type. And so increasingly, every year, more and more African Americans, through our efforts, are beginning to see the truth.
In addition to publishing this research, Arnold and Protecting Black Life have created a roll call billboard campaign that features the faces of young women who've lost their lives to abortion. Arnold hopes it will make the issue more personal and drive home the fact that abortion is killing women throughout the nation.
In March of 2014, a young African-American woman, 22 years old, Lakeisha LaShawn Wilson, was killed by a botched abortion at the preterm abortion facility in Cleveland, Ohio. I was asked to come up along with a host of other pro-life leaders to speak at the press conference in front of this facility in April of 2014. Early that morning, about 3:30 a.m., the Lord woke me up with a burden on my heart regarding a roll call. Well, these young women, when the roll is called, they can no longer respond because abortion has ended their lives. So we've launched a billboard campaign to address that.
Why do you think these billboards will be so powerful?
One of the things we've not seen is just simply the faces of these beautiful young women who abortion has claimed their lives. And that, at its core, is what the Roll Call Billboard campaign is about.
All around the country, we are hearing these stories of women that are being killed in these abortion centers from abortion, but nobody's talking about it and nobody's reporting on it. And yet we have what my friend Arnold Culbraith calls a roll call, that we can now identify names of woman after woman after woman that has died in these abortion centers. We had a young lady in, Chicago, Illinois, went to a Planned Parenthood for a late-term abortion. She was 5 months pregnant. They perforated her uterus, and then they left her laying there for more than 5 hours before they brought her out. And by the time they got her to a trauma center that was less than 2 miles away from where they were, she had bled out and died. So I tell people all the time, don't believe the hype. It's not abortion care. It's not medical care. They have no regard for you. They don't care about your life. And if you die, it's like, oh, well, you just dead.
That's legal abortion in America today?
That's legal abortion in America today. The abortion industry treats women, black women in particular, but all women, like they don't matter. But we matter. We count for something. And that's what I hope women will begin to understand.
When we return, we'll hear from two men who are utilizing technology to educate blacks about abortion in their communities. Ryan Baumberger was 13 years old when told he was conceived by the act of rape. His birth mother made an adoption plan for him, and Ryan's grateful for her decision to choose life. He started the Radiance Foundation as an outlet to use his creative talents for the pro-life movement. Ryan has produced multimedia campaigns, including the TooManyAborted.com awareness campaign regarding the disproportionate impact abortion has on the black community. He works to overcome the media bias of choosing advocacy over accuracy when it comes to abortion and Planned Parenthood.
We wanted to start something to help educate the public. So our slogan is illuminate, educate, and motivate. And that's what we do. We try to create original content to spur people on to think about issues of life from a different perspective.
Tell me about TooManyAborted.com, your awareness campaign.
We started TooManyAborted.com because we wanted to launch an ad campaign dealing with the disproportionate impact of abortion in the black community. We launched 80 billboards in the Atlanta area. Black children are an endangered species, TooManyAborted.com. More endangered by death by abortion than any other racial demographic, up to 5 times more. And it was powerful. The response, although from liberals and from abortion advocates, and activists, they hated it. But the response from the public, I would say probably 90% of the phone calls and emails that we got were extremely positive. And even more powerful, to get people who saw our campaign, looked at the website, saw the material on the website, the videos and other original content that we create, and changed their minds about even having an abortion. It was bigger than we expected.
I understand that you've been sued by the NAACP regarding how you have phrased them in an article.
Here you have the nation's oldest civil rights organization suing a black man, or at least someone who's half white, half black, for exercising his second most basic civil right, my right to free speech, First Amendment. I can't even use the phrase for which I've been sued and the Radiance Foundation has been sued, but I parodied. Allow me to use it.
You called them the National Association for the Abortion of Colored People. And they got a little testy about that.
These were news articles that I was referring to them in that parodied phrase and pointing out their pro-abortion actions, pointing out their pro-abortion policies. And in news articles, which you think you have free reign, it's First Amendment. Parody is protected by the First Amendment. But apparently a federal judge has ruled in their favor that it is not, in fact, he said, parody has to be funny. Your parody wasn't funny, so therefore you're not protected by the First Amendment. And not only can you not use the parodied phrase, you may never parody the NAACP's name again. NAACP is irrefutably pro-abortion. I mean, when you have an annual convention every year and Planned Parenthood is your corporate sponsor, you've taken a position on abortion. But the judge ignored all that evidence and said they've never taken a position on abortion. Therefore, he ruled against us, and we are awaiting real justice at the next level of the Fourth Circuit.
As chairman of the board for the Frederick Douglass Foundation, Dean Nelson is working to overcome the political hurdle of educating the black community about abortion. He's also the national director for outreach with Online for Life, an organization specializing in reaching abortion-vulnerable women online. They're utilizing technology to offer young women an alternative to abortion.
The emphasis has always been using technology to rescue babies and to serve women. And they've done that in a unique way, and that's kind of their hedgehog principle, really drilling down measurable ways that we can get women to connect with us, particularly online, whether it's them calling on the phone, whether it's finding on their phone or through their computer, to connect with a kind, loving voice on the other end, and then helping those women to come to a decision to save the life of their baby. It's really been eye-opening. We've been able to increase the number of women that we actually connect with online, but through our process, not only have we increased those numbers dramatically, but we've also been able to increase the number of women that we actually get into the door of a center, and increase the number of women that actually say, yes, we want to, or I want to save, my child, or to keep my child.
Well, Dean, give me a specific example of how you're using this technology to reach out to women.
There's an app that we have, a prayer app, where we can actually pray real time. And this morning, I saw on my phone that there was a woman in Akron, Ohio, who actually was contemplating an abortion. So literally, I was able to use technology on my phone to pray for a woman who was in the valley of decision. The next update that actually showed that she had made the decision and was actually making an appointment to come into a pregnancy center. So that's a way where not just engaging women who may be facing an unplanned pregnancy, but we are pushing to engage the church community as well. And this new prayer app that we actually have, we hope to have 50,000 users that are all around the country that are praying for women. We've seen some great results, and we feel like that it's our way to engage and to be part of the pro-life fight, really to turn the tide, ultimately to see abortion ended in America.
In a moment, we'll hear thoughts on the future of abortion in America. The National Black Pro-Life Coalition was created to educate and activate the Black community through cutting-edge research, technology, prayer, and media awareness campaigns. The members stress this isn't just a white Republican issue. It'll take the leaders of all parties, races, and gender coming together to see an end to abortion in our nation. Arnold, what advice would you have for white pro-life leaders in dealing with the Black community on abortion?
I would encourage them to build a network with those of us in the coalition, number one. Number two, thoroughly educate themselves about the Black abortion issue, and then confidently move forward in carrying that information. One of the things that many of my Anglo brothers and sisters feel is that they don't have the moral authority to trumpet truth on this issue as it relates to the Black community. But you have just as much moral authority, not because I said it, but because God said it.
We have to come together. And I think that the more, particularly in the church, that Blacks, whites, Protestants, Catholics can come together, I think that we'll see greater success. Just as the civil rights struggle, when they saw that it was not just Blacks, but people that all came together really for one cause with one voice. At that point, we were able to see the civil rights movement make huge advances that it had not made before. And I believe the more that the pro-life movement embraces diversity, I believe that we will see an end to abortion.
Abortion in the Black community has to go the same route that slavery went, the same route that separate but equal went. It needs to disappear, because in the end, it's all the same thing. It's injustice.
I see that when the Black community wakes up and gets it in the front of our brains that this is a orchestrated maneuver by eugenicists and elitists who feel like Black people don't have value. So we're going to convince you by doing the Negro Project that Margaret Sanger launched in 1939. We're going to pay actors and actresses and ministers and whosoever will to promote our message. When we wake up and realize we've been duped, abortion will end. All we have to do is stop killing our babies, and I promise you, if the Black community stops killing our babies, abortion in America will end overnight.
I'm tremendously hopeful because of the college-age students that I talk with, high schoolers who get this information, and because many of them have a justice, kind of bent, they want to do something about this injustice. So I'm hoping to end abortion in collaboration with an army of others.
I believe optimistically that America is still a beacon of hope and of light. I believe that truth crushed to earth will rise again. And so I believe that there are so many voices that are continuing to be raised in every community, certainly the African American community, that will proclaim the truth about life. And I believe that people will hear that truth and respond.
It's alarming to realize just how aggressively the abortion industry is targeting women of color. The evidence clearly documents that the eugenics movement is alive and well and standing true to the beliefs of its founding members. Thankfully, there are outstanding pro-life leaders dedicated to releasing Black women from the bondage of abortion and the horrors it brings. Thanks for watching. To help give you even more information, I'm offering this compelling book, Life at All Costs, an anthology of voices from 21st century Black pro-life leaders. Today, it's my free gift to you while supplies last, and your special copy is signed by all of today's guests. Visit our website at facinglife.tv to enter for your chance to receive one. While there, check out available resources regarding today's episode and find out how you can order a copy of this two-part episode on DVD or Blu-ray to share with others.